Hello, I'm Dr. Scott Watier.
And I'm Tommy Welling, and you're listening to the Fasting for Life podcast.
This podcast is about using fasting as a tool to regain your health, achieve ultimate wellness, and live the life you truly deserve.
Each episode is a short conversation on a single topic with immediate actionable steps. We cover everything from fat loss and health and wellness to the science of lifestyle design.
We started Fasting for Life because of how fasting has transformed our lives, and we hope to share the tools that we have learned along the way. Hey everyone, welcome to the Fasting for Life podcast. My name is Dr. Scott Watier, and I'm here, as always, with my good friend and colleague, Tommy Welling. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Scott, how are you?
Fantastic, my friend. Excited for today's conversation and deep dive into a really applicable research article. We've had this one on the docket for a while. It was revised in August of 2024. So as we plan these things out, I'm like, man, I can't wait to get to this one. And it was a big lift, and we dove deep, but there's some really cool actionable things that are going to come out of it in terms of adopting a healthy fasting lifestyle. So this is out of the Journal of Obesity Reviews, and it's evaluating the efficacy of intermittent fasting and exercise combinations for weight loss. A network meta-analysis. And I don't want to pat ourselves on the back, but a lot of what we've been teaching and coaching and seeing and doing and experiencing on is now coming to life in this last handful of podcast episodes. And the research is starting to really back the findings that we see when adopting this lifestyle. So I'm really excited to dive into this. We're going to nerd out for a little bit, but as always, if you are new to the podcast, welcome in. And you're going to leave with one or two actionable things that you can do today, right now, as long as you're not driving or operating heavy machinery. You can put these things into your day-to-day life immediately and, start building out that fasting lifestyle along with us. So if you're new, you want to learn more about who we are, why we do, what we do, why we have our challenges and our resources and our coaching, etc., why we bring you a podcast episode each and every week, head back to episode 1, give it a listen. You'll hear more about how fasting transformed our lives. And if you're an OG, a long-term listener, we continue to appreciate you, and we are grateful for each and every download and share and like and comment, and especially, as we like to say, our favorite kind of review, the 5-star kind, Tommy. So we have a new one. We want to give you a shout out. Thank you for listening in and being on this journey with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Younger at 65 just said, thank you. I'm so glad I found this podcast, and I'm starting a new journey at age 65. You're very welcome, first of all, Younger at 65. Thanks for being a listener.
Love that name.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And I absolutely know what you're talking about. When I stumbled upon and started getting into fasting, I was about 35. But it felt like I had literally found something that was helping me feel younger than I had felt for probably 15 or more years. So I can't imagine, getting into fasting at age 65 and how you feel like you're literally like rolling the clock back. So that's incredible. Keep up the great work and keep going with it, and drop us a line from time to time and tell us how it's going. We want to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love that perspective, right? Not starting over, right? Not trying again.
Yeah.
Right. But what was the username again? The handle?
Younger at 65.
Younger at 65. Yeah. That's a positive, affirming, action-taking name. I love it.
Beautiful.
And I love the fact that fasting can apply to anyone. It can apply to any lifestyle.
Any age.
And it can get you incredible results. So thank you for taking the time to leave that 5-star review. That continues to tell the podcast world that we are bringing value each and every week. And we're very grateful for all of the thousands of reviews we have, and the majority of them being 5-star. So we're going to keep doing what we do, which is bringing actionable things to you and adding the nuance to the conversation about how to become that 5% of people that achieve the weight loss they want, that gain that confidence, that prevent that disease, that reverse that metabolic condition, that look better in the bathing suit or perform better in the bedroom. Whatever it is that you're looking for, you deserve to live your life to the fullest And we want to pull you out of the diet matrix, the diet mentality, one podcast, one message, one action step at a time. So, Tommy, this article in the Obesity Reviews, evaluating the efficacy of intermittent fasting and exercise combinations for weight loss. Really cool study. And it is one of the gold standards. So it went through the data that was out there, right? And put together its criteria and looked at all of these different randomized controlled trials to evaluate the most effective, because these are the questions that we get. What's the best fasting schedule? When should I work out? How do I time my workouts? What should I eat? These are the questions that people want answered. And obviously you can get the answer. You can just Google it, figure it out.
You can get many answers.
Or you can get confusion, right? But in this case, when they looked at their criteria, they looked at 9 trials, 12 interventions, and 570 participants. So really cool stuff. I want to talk about what a network meta-analysis is in just a second. Then I want to explain what the Sucre score is and kind of how you combine looking at different interventions across different studies. But the reality is that we're going to be looking at 2 main long-term drivers of weight loss and health success, which are body weight reduction. Because if you look here at the States, the United States of America, the sad American diet, the fact that 75% of the population is overweight or obese, right? And in the short term, that might not have a detrimental effect on health, but it does long term, and it did for you and I.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
So we're looking at body weight reduction and fat mass. Those 2 things.
So when we're looking at these and being highly correlated with long-term health outcomes, insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance, blood sugar management, the ability to burn fat, to tap into long-term fat stores and actually burn those fat cells or shrink those fat cells as needed, when needed, is also a function on metabolic efficiency, metabolic flexibility. And these things are all highly correlated with the size and the weight of our fat mass. And so reducing those fat stores is a very big, important health outcome. And so just the fact that those were the main things that this network meta-analysis was focused on was a really great starting point. And then also what I really liked about this was they were doing a deep dive into thousands of articles that had already been done, looking at different exercise protocols and different fasting protocols. But then what they were able to do with a network meta-analysis is actually synthesize new takeaways, new outcomes, new recommendations based on everything that had been done, because not all of the research is never done, essentially. But where we are with the current state of research for intermittent fasting, they haven't had the chance to, actually perform all of the trials that still need to be done. Taking the most effective intermittent fasting protocols and then combining those with the most effective exercise protocols as well, especially when we're focused on, hey, let's increase insulin sensitivity. Let's decrease the amount of fatty tissue in the liver. Let's increase the metabolic efficiency and then burn through the fat stores as quickly and efficiently as possible. All of those trials haven't been done. So in a network meta-analysis like this, you can actually combine research findings across many different findings and different research protocols. And you can do it in a way that there's statistical significance, but also good clinical outcome power, that you can make strong recommendations based on what's out there and start combining results, so you can make combined
better informed decisions.
Yes, and multi-layered recommendations without just saying, "Oh, this is the best fasting protocol," but we're not really sure how it interacts or if it should or could be combined with, let's say, an exercise protocol, or let's say an eating protocol or a supplementation protocol as well, right?
So what I just heard, there's 2 things. One, we're not just going to look at the iceberg that's above the water. We're going to look underneath the surface, right?
Correct.
And then the second thing I just heard there is customization or personalization. What's the best method for you? right? The sustainability, the excitement, the how you stay the course when you're not getting the experience or the result you're looking for on said scale, right?
Right.
And we've talked a lot about that in most recent episodes with fasting and how it actually helps with hunger and the what's the term that they use, Tommy, in the studies? The not the dropout rate. My brain is not
just
working.
The adherence or compliance?
The adherence score, the compliance score has been really high when using and leveraging fasting. So the complexity there is, okay, well, when you work out, do I need to have an anabolic window? There's a poster in my gym that's like the calories you consume in the first 30 minutes to an hour after your meal are more important than the No, they're not.
Is this right by the cafe?
It's above the urinals, right by the cafe, on all the smoothie posters for their right. But that's not accurate anymore. And we know that the upper limit of protein consumption in one meal has changed. It's no longer 30 grams and then your body turns it into 100 to 120 grams of protein is still going to give you an incredible long-term body muscle building effect. So
you're not just going to pee out your chicken, right?
Right. Or store it as fat or turn it into sugar or whatever the stuff that's out there, right? So the cool thing about this is there's a customization piece. So we can answer the questions for you. What's the best fasting schedule? What's the best workout strategy, right? Now, when we look at NMAs, the statistical this is you're allowing. I just want to give the actual clinical definition is an NMA or network meta-analysis is a statistical method that allows researchers to compare 3 or more interventions simultaneously by combining both direct and indirect evidence from various studies. This is why this was a heavy lift from our end to go down and find those connection points. They gave the overview, but they didn't give the specifics on what did the people actually do during these workouts. Right. And we'll outline the different strategies and the different categories here in just a second. But this type of network meta-analysis or this approach helps to estimate the relative effects of different treatments. And then that provides that clearer picture. That provides that beneath the surface. What does that iceberg look like beneath the surface in terms of their effectiveness compared to just a traditional meta-analysis, which is just 1 or 2 interventions. So we're going multi-layers here, which I think is really cool. Now, in terms of big picture outcome, we're going to share them based on what's called a SUCRA score. And this is I took statistics 301 at one point as an elective. I don't know why.
Fun.
I like to play in the anatomy, physiology, microbiology, chemistry world. I don't know why I thought taking stats or differential equations, probably because I lived with a couple of engineers and they talked me into it one night.
Right.
But I remember taking it. And so I'm not going to even go down the path of trying to understand exactly the methodology of what SUCRA is. The takeaway is it's a really easy way, not the math part, but the takeaway part. And what it is a surface under the cumulative ranking curve. And it's a metric that's used in NMAs, network meta-analyses, to evaluate the likelihood that a treatment is most effective among several options, right? So not just the 1 or 2 options in one meta-analysis, but across multiple interventions, multiple layers deep. Yeah. And it ranges from 0 to 100%. The higher the score, so thank God it's just on a 0 to 100. It's not some confidence interval, 0.95% negative inverse over it. No, 0 to 100, right? We can all understand that. Higher scores indicate a greater probability of being among the top ranked treatments. Okay. So we're going to rank the combination of fasting technique plus exercise. What's the word I'm looking for? Exercise category, the category of the exercise or the type of exercise that they did. Did that make sense, Tommy?
Yeah, it sure did. Because when we're looking at the fasting protocols and then some of the research articles would use time restricted eating, let's say. Yep. Or alternate day fasting or the 5-2 diet or even fast mimicking protocols too. And then when we're looking over at the exercise side, we have high intensity, moderate intensity, and then we just kind of have your standard going to the gym, doing some cardio, doing some resistance exercise, right? Hold on, let's break those down a little bit more. Okay. And I'll just give a 1-sentence statement overview on each one of those, and then we'll get into the article. And then I want to make sure I don't forget to mention why we're passionate about this and why even from the conclusions or the introduction or discussion part of the study was really cool. So let me say that first, and then we'll break down the different
the control groups and the different groups and the different types of fasting. So I want to make sure I got this out on the front end. The reason why this matters to us and the reason why we talk about things like this is because given the rising obesity rates and then the long-term associated health risks, IF with exercise, and this is what we see and do and preach and coach, right? Yep. On is the most promising, in our opinion, for a time-efficient, long-term adherence approach to weight loss.
Absolutely.
And it's going to emphasize, this study specifically, the importance of reducing fat mass as a critical focus in the management of obesity. And the excessive fat accumulation that poses the significant long-term health risk. Because this is what happens when you are on the diet roller coaster or the fasting roller coaster or the weight loss roller coaster or the lifestyle intervention roller coaster, right? Is you lose some weight, you stick to it, you white knuckle it for a while. Something happens, life, something gets in the way, right? I just went through this in the fall with battling COVID and long COVID for almost 2 months, still recovering from a body weight, body composition, exercise, VO2 max perspective months later.
Yeah.
You lose weight, your body composition changes, your habits come back in, the old habits sneak back in, right? In the middle of the night, when the door's unlocked, they creep back in. And then you gain weight, and then your body composition changes. So every time you go through a weight loss cycle, the potential is to not change the body composition in a positive way, meaning you lose weight, you lose fat mass. We have to be making sure for long-term sustainability and metabolic function that we are building lean muscle tissue to fill that void, so you don't fill the void that you created by losing the weight with more fat mass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I think that better insulates you mentally and physiologically for those times when the results kind of slow down and the process is less exciting, or you get smacked by life, or you get a little complacent whenever you reach, like, maybe it's a short-term milestone, or maybe, you got to that point that you wanted to before the event that you were preparing for, let's say. So you're not at the ultimate goal. You haven't shrunk all the fat stores that you want to, but at the same time, you're at a better spot than where you were. And so now motivation is lower and complacency can become higher at that point. So this could end up as like a plateau or a momentary maintenance kind of area if we're cognizant of it and we're careful with it, or it can become the start of a backslide if we're unaware of it. And that can be very problematic right there. So if we think about it as there's a potential for, there's inevitably going to be an ebb and flow in motivational factors, then I feel like we can prepare for that even better. But on the front end, if we're prepared for that with optimal techniques and using the right exercise at the right time, while we're burning through the fat, then we're prepared for that spot. And even when we get there, that momentary maintenance or that plateau, we're in a much better position than we were whenever we started, like, this round of the diet, if you will, if you want to look at it like that, which I don't. But even if we are, we're still in a better spot.
That whole eating 800, 1,200 calories a day for the rest of your life is not a long-term success strategy, right? White knuckling it, willpowering it, won't eat the thing, powering it your way through it is not sustainable. So the cool thing about this study is they're going to look at some of the levers that we consistently pull and teach on inside of our challenges and coaching and things that we do on a day-to-day basis. So let's break down the categories. So we've got the fasting categories combined with a certain type of exercise. And again, 570 participants, 12 different interventions, 9 trials. Done with the network medical analysis, so multiple layers, and then ranked 0 to 100%. So you mentioned these earlier, ADF, alternate day fasting. So there's alternate day, there's modified alternate day. It's one of the most researched fasting schedules out there, protocols out there. The average length of fast for this is about 38 hours, just for context, okay? ADF, alternate day fast. Fast one day, eat one day, fast one day, eat one day. Basic. TRE is time restricted eating. So this is going to be, just like in January of 2024, we did a study where we launched our blueprint to fasting for fat loss, which is one of the new resources, 20-page PDF, got a bunch of fasting schedules, the who, what, when, where, and why of how to adopt a fasting lifestyle. It's in the show notes. Click the link. It's free. It's one of the most impactful action-based or action step-packed resources that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So TRE can be anywhere from 12, 14, 16, 18, 20-hour fasts. So where you're just typical 16-8, 16 hours fasting, 8 hours nutrition window, right? So that's TRE, time-restricted eating or time-restricted feeding. We talk about it in both ways. 5-2 is 5 days of normal eating, 2 days of fasting. Right?
Yeah, usually not
intermittent
consecutive.
window. Not consecutive,
usually not
correct.
consecutive.
Yep. Unless we were talking about episode 271, where we talked about where it was consecutive days. And by the way, plus protein, crushed.
Right.
Go back and listen to that
Crushed
one.
Crushed it, yeah.
So those are the 3 different fasting interventions. There was one other intervention called fast mimicking diet. We're not going to touch on that. That's where you eat food on your fasting days. And
all throughout the day.
By the way, I'll share the most that came in last place with some of the scoring metrics here in just a few minutes. But those are the 3 main ones. So ADF, TRE, and 5-2.
And these groups were between 7 weeks and 12 weeks long, these intervention times, which I thought was absolutely great. And here was another cool thing was that the BMI range was also a very wide range too, because on the time restricted feeding groups, that group was, so those fasts were the shortest fast, but they had the lowest BMI categories too, down all the way down at the 20 mark for BMI. Okay. So like very, very like lean individuals. And then we went all the way up through these different groups, all the way up into the 37 to even 40 range. So these categories apply to a wide range of people and different like clinical scenarios, obesity, normal weight, overweight, and everything in between, which was awesome.
Yep. And for the exercise groups, this was really cool. So for the exercise groups, we had HIIT, high intensity interval training. We had MICT, right?
Yeah, moderate intensity continuous training.
Yep. And then we had the exercise group, the EX group.
Yeah.
So what do those mean? Because if you're out there in the hot works F45 boot camp, 60-minute, spin class, burn classes at the gym, right? There's a lot of misconceptions about what those actually mean. And we're going to talk about zone training and heart rate based training here today. We'll keep it really simple and give you some real life applications for it. But for moderate intensity continuous training, this is going to be about 35 to 60 minutes per session. I do 35 to 45 minutes, either broken up into 3 to 5 sessions a day. I've got a walking pad in my room, or I go out and walk the green area around my house.
That's a good point. It doesn't have to all be done within one session. That's great.
Correct. Now, in these studies, it was, or from what we can see, we didn't go through each individual intervention, but and the intensity is anywhere between 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. I'll come back to that in just a minute.
Great.
So modalities like walking on a treadmill, cycling, rowing, elliptical, but really something that you can do without being out of breath, or just right on that borderline of not wanting to have a conversation with somebody, right? Is that sweet spot for zone 2. That's the sweet spot. So
walking with a weight vest. Did you say that?
Weight vest. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Could also be low intense, steady state, right? LISS. That's really where the best fat burning comes from. It's not the long run. It's not running, right? It's not long aerobic or anaerobic exercise. Okay. Anaerobic exercise, excuse me. The biggest loser type stuff. It's not that what we're talking about here.
Okay.
Biggest loser meaning those no pain, no gain type workouts, right?
Right.
So this is going to be 35 all the way up to 60 to 70%. You can hold a conversation, but you do notice that your heart rate and your breathing goes up a little bit. High intensity interval training is going to be 20 to 30 minutes total, including warm up and cool down. and it's going to be near maximum effort during your workout intervals. So this is going to be like a 2-to-1 work to rest ratio, 30 seconds of work, 15 seconds of rest.
Okay.
So 30 seconds maximum effort, like a sprint, 60 seconds of active recovery. So I sprint out here on the green area. I freaking hate it. But I do it a couple times a week. And so I'll sprint, right? I've got these little markers. I don't know if it's 30 seconds. It might be 20. And then I walk the distance back to the starting point and then do it again. Walk back to the starting point and do it again. Try not to pull a hammy. So definitely staying under that near maximal category for me.
Yeah.
So this could also be like 2 minutes of high intensity alternating with 3 minutes of active recovery. So you're going to start with fewer intervals and increase over time. So basically this is 20 to 30 minutes. It's 2-to-1 ratio, sprints, stairs, incline on the treadmill, right? Getting that heart rate up, but then having that rest period built in as well. So a lot less work, but you're getting the heart rate up a lot higher.
Yeah, and better fatty acid mobilization and oxidation occurring during those times. And then there's an after effect that lasts also. So even though the duration of those exercise periods is lower, the effect lasts, for a longer period of time, which is really cool. But I noted that you said I freaking hate it, right? And I thought that was interesting because that compliance piece, we'll touch some more on that compliance piece, but just that note of the disdain right there has an effect on long-term sustainability, how often you do it, and keeping the excitement for the actual exercise or the desire to do it.
I'm like the dwarf in the Lord of the Rings, like Gimli or whatever his name is. I'm built for short distances, right? Like I'll do short bursts. Like I was always great when I did CrossFit. In doing those short Metcons where it was like 8 to 10 minutes of hard work and then I was done. Right? Like I could, so a little perspective into my psyche of the love-hate relationship with exercise. My wife considers it self-care. I consider it, I need to do this so I don't die care. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
This is longevity care for me.
Sure.
It's also why I sit in a sauna at 200 degrees for 30 minutes, four to 5 times a week. So,
it's awesome.
And hop in cold plunges and do all that fun stuff. So, that's the second group, the IHIAT. So MICT, HIIT, and then the third group is the EX group. So this is your standard out the box, eat less, move more, set your calorie restriction, go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, and you're going to do your resistance training plus your aerobic component, right?
Yep. Can do some bench press, maybe do some legs, hop on the treadmill. Or
handful of exercises, handful of sets, handful of reps, slowly tracking and increasing your rate week to week.
This is what I did for years.
Plus, I'm going to hop on the elliptical or treadmill or Stairmaster so I can get my air quotes cardio in.
Yeah, which may lead to a reduction in the total net calories that I consume today, right? Like going for that calorie deficit. So that's
stimulate
kind of
the hell out of hunger.
Yeah, that's and then for me, prolong getting into my sleep cycle as well, because a lot of times I would squeeze in the cardio late in the day. Right? Yep. And so I love the buckets. I love the design of that because they're very, very relatable. We talk about HIIT.
Yeah, it's all the stuff we do.
We talk about the standard exercise protocols. But very cool that they included the moderate intensity as well. So I just like the way that everything was kind of laid out for them to take a look at the combined effects when we talk about fasting protocols as well, but specifically looking for fatty acid oxidation and efficiency for fat mass loss.
Yep. So moderate intensity, continuous training, 3 to 5 times a week. Walking, running, biking, swimming, dancing, depending on your cardiovascular level. But that zone 2, 60 to 70%. You can have a conversation, but you notice that you're a little bit out of breath, but not totally out of breath. And then your high intensity interval training, 2 to 3 times a week. You're going to do short bursts, burpees, sprints, kettlebell swings. That work on off 2-to-1 ratio, 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest, 1 minute of work, 30 seconds of rest, et cetera, right?
For the moderate intensity, that's keeping that heart rate there, like basically the entire time.
The whole time. Right? There's no spikes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So moderate intensity continuous training to me is low intensity steady state training. That's how I learned it. That's how I knew it. But it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's walking with a weight vest.
Yeah.
Right.
Just walking is like it usually doesn't get you there unless it's like power walking maybe.
Yeah. Or it's, 100 degrees here in Houston, middle of the day when I go out and get my hot girl walk on, take the shirt off, get some vitamin D, scare the neighbors and get my 30 minutes in. Right. So, right. And then you've got your standard Biggest Loser type workouts, right? You're going to do your standard eat less, move more type workouts where you're going to do your resistance training plus cardio, right?
Yeah.
So now we're going to look at the combinations and the outcomes for body weight reduction and fat mass improvement. So they're going to combine across these studies. Remember, multi-layered, multi-interventional, iceberg analogy. We're going to combine ADF plus MICT, ADF plus HIIT, ADF plus exercise group, right? Mm-hmm. And then now we're not going to list all of the outcomes. We're just going to give you the main takeaways, of course, and then give you some action steps in a few minutes when we wrap up. And then, TRE across all three different types of exercise, right? Time restricted eating group. And then the 5-2 group across all of the three different groups of exercise. And if I had a soundboard, I would do a drum roll, or if I could speak Spanish properly, I would roll my R's, but I can't do it. So Tommy, clear across the board, the highest Sucra score, remember that 0 to 100% rating was what two groups for body weight? What group? Both. Ding, 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 ding. We have a winner for both the best for body weight reduction and fat mass improvement.
ADF, alternate day fasting, and MICT, moderate intensity, right?
Just let that embrace the suck. Let the silence set in. So average, if we were to take ADF, approximately sweet spot 36 to 38 hour fast, plus moderate intense. Mm-hmm. Not the Biggest Loser, white knuckled, 60-minute boot camp, elevated heart rate the whole time.
Nope.
We're talking zone 2 training, slightly out of breath, consistent. The Sucra score was not even really close. The secondary group came in about 15 to 18 points lower on that 0 to 100 score. So the Sucra score for ADF plus MICT, that moderate intensity exercise, was 88.1. I would take 88s on all my tests in all my finals. No questions asked. I would have paid extra for it when I was going through grad school, right? So 88 out of 100. For fat mass, it was actually even higher. It was 93%.
For fat mass. Okay. So there was a cool thing too, because when they went into the details of HIIT versus MICT, they could see that HIIT has a slightly better, more efficient fat burn. But then when you take it out over a number of weeks and then get into a number of months, the adherence and compliance is substantially better with the moderate intensity versus the high intensity. So even though you're using like that 20 or 30 minute block. So like what I heard there is if you're doing HIIT now and you're consistently doing it and you're making good use of your time and you're enjoying it, it's awesome. But don't sell yourself short on the lower barrier of entry, getting into the moderate intensity continuous training, because the long-term adherence and compliance are substantially better, and that lead to greater effects on fat mass reduction over the weeks and then into the months. And so I absolutely love that.
Also, don't sell yourself short in the fact that you have to do tons of high heart rate work.
Right.
Which is another limiting step. You don't need to, you do less work with more afterburn. Mm-hmm. Right? So ADF plus MICT, clear winner. Interesting couple other effective combinations. Time restricted eating, right? So standard intermittent fasting plus HIIT also came in that secondary position as having great effectiveness. The only time that the exercise group which is the stuff that I see at the gym, right? And
just a little resistance, a little cardio.
Kudos for the folks doing it and sticking to it. But my takeaway here, and the thing I'm going to say before I drop the bomb here, is if what you're doing is working, don't stop doing it. Just take one or two things from this episode and add them into your routine or swap them out, right? If you really don't like doing something, that's not a long-term sustainable plan for you.
Sure.
Now, if you're trying to, bodybuild, right, or Fitspo, or get your IFBB or whatever, then yeah, okay, you're going to need to be doing that resistance training. I would argue with some keto and fasting and whatnot. But yeah, if it's working, don't stop doing it. Just add or replace one of those things that you've heard from today.
Yeah.
So the reason I say that is because the only time that the standard exercise group, which is what you're going to find out there, right, in the personal trainer world, is, and so many times have we heard this from people in our coaching group, where they go to the gym, they talk to their trainer, they talk to the nutritionist, and what's the response that they get from that person?
Eat less, move more.
Is you need to stop fasting. You're going to mess up your lean muscle tissue. You need to do more of this. It's like when you go to the doctor and you've lost a bunch of weight and your cholesterol is elevated, and they go, "Oh man, wow, you got to stop doing what you're doing." Well, no, I just lost 40 pounds. Right.
Everything else is looking better.
Yeah. So pump the brakes, because this exercise group, now again, if it's working, keep doing it. The only time that it showed up to be an effective combination on fat mass and body weight reduction, statistically speaking, from this NMA, was when it was combined with ADF.
So you needed almost 40-hour fast to finally see some results with that standard exercise protocol. That's what I just heard there.
Correct.
You don't say.
Right? So when we look at the mechanisms, we've got ADF reduces caloric intake and enhances fat metabolism. You mentioned it earlier. Moderate intense continuous training promotes fat oxidation and improves insulin sensitivity. Iceberg analogy beneath the surface. The combination sustains an elevated resting metabolic rate while optimizing body composition. Boom.
That's exactly what we want.
Mic drop. So now, there are some limitations, right? Energy balance, macronutrient intake, expenditure not thoroughly analyzed, individual differences not fully considered. But if we're going big picture, 30,000 foot view here, the takeaways are incredible.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
When we're looking at studies and we're hearing conversations about fasting, and most folks' experience with fasting tends to be in the time-restricted eating, time-restricted feeding window, and then 14, 16, 18 hours usually, and then sometimes goes into the 20 or 22 or maybe an OMAD, a one meal a day, into that 23-hour kind of range. But, we don't hear a lot about true ADF, true alternate day fasting, because even when we do hear about alternate day fasting, oftentimes it's with a mini meal, a 400, 500, 600 calorie meal on that quote unquote fasting day, which is great.
Or it's with beneficial. A pause in the working out because you don't think you can do the workouts in a fasted state.
Yeah. And that's just like a limiting belief, or, or some other, it's not really within my comfort zone. So I haven't tried that. I'm really worried that it's going to be terrible, or I'm going to feel terrible, or whatever the fear or concern there is. It's just, sometimes we just need to step a little bit outside of that comfort zone and then go, yeah, you know what? I have been worried about that, or I've decided not to try it yet, but maybe I should. What's really holding me back here? And I'm going to say it's probably going to fall apart once you start to try it. You can always dip your toes in. You don't have to go full bore, into uncharted territory. You can always dip your toes in, see how you feel, and then just do a little bit more if it feels okay, because it probably will. Yep. So when we're looking to optimize fat burn, sometimes we just need a little bit more fasting, and sometimes we just need a little bit more exercise, or a little bit better exercise. Yep. I wish I could be talking to myself 5 years ago.
Oh, you said that to me when we were prepping for this episode. I was like, gosh, dang it. I wish I knew all those years of powerlifting and just.
Yeah. And I loved it.
Bulking and cutting and crushing my shoulders and
Yeah.
knees and hips with all the weight. Like, why?
I loved some of that stuff and I still do. But what I didn't love and wish that I could go back and change was thinking that more of that was going to help me with my fat burning efforts, especially when combined with macro tracking and eating multiple times throughout the day, because I was so worried about the muscular component that I was painting myself into a corner that didn't allow any of the fat burning to take place or to an appreciable amount.
Now, here's one thing I want to mention about the insulin resistance, right? So you can get results doing it the old way, right? If you don't have any weight loss resistance, insulin resistance, skeletons in the diet roller coaster closet, so to speak, right? You can.
This
People
could work
do it all
really
the time.
nicely. Yeah.
My wife does it. She's got no visceral fat, incredibly healthy, heart rate variability through the roof, resting heart rates like non-existent. Like when she was pregnant and she would go in and like see the midwife assistant, she's like, your blood pressure is 92/58. Is that normal? She's like, yeah. You're pregnant. She's like, I know. Like she's
efficient.
She's been working on her health for a long time. I have years of insulin resistance, was undiagnosed pre-diabetic at one point, right? So for me, I need a little bit more extra mustard on the hot dog. I need a little extra help. Okay.
Yeah.
So from an insulin standpoint, you can get results that way, but for the majority of people that are 75% of the population that's overweight or obese, you've got some form of that hormonal play or that hormonal player in the game. So you need that extra help. So when we're talking about body weight reduction, just to overview of the Sucre ratings, ADF plus moderate intense continuous training, 88%. TRE plus HIIT came in second at 84%, right? So if you're doing TRE and HIIT, true HIIT, the way we described it today, great. The only time the exercise group, the standard exercise group, you're like, man, I really love my workouts, great. Then start doing ADF because that came in third place, but it was 25 points lower. It was a 69%. So C's get degrees, but not the greatest, right? And then for fat mass, ADF plus MICT again, right? Moderate intensity. And then for insulin resistance, all of the fasting groups showed improvement in the insulin resistance. So again, personalization, customization, where we started this conversation is, hey, Tommy, hey, Scott, what's the best fasting schedule? Well, what have you tried? What's your goal? How much weight have you lost? What do you like to eat? It's not just a one-size-fits-all conversation. Take your body weight, multiply it by 12, -5, there's your calorie restriction. It's just not that simple, especially if you're in that overweight, obese category.
Yeah, great points. And when you take a look at what you're doing right now, fasting wise, and you go, okay, well, what do I do with this information? How do I kind of integrate it? What kind of changes, should I potentially make? Well, a little bit more moderate intensity, continuous training would be better. If you're doing it, once or twice a week and you bump that up a little bit, that would be awesome. What about those times like, have you ever skipped a workout or decided that you weren't going to do something because you didn't have that much time? Like you didn't feel like you had quite enough time. But the great thing about MICT is it's very adaptable. And like you had mentioned before, breaking it up into smaller chunks.
Oh, we've done multiple episodes on that.
Right. And so you can do that and know that you're checking the box and you're making big strides towards your long-term health and your fasting goals and your fasting lifestyle without having to have this big chunk of time that you have to dedicate to it.
Take the damn pressure off yourself.
Right. Well said.
Because life ain't slowing down. We're more distracted and notified and buzzed and tweeted and
busier and
beeped and vibrated more than ever. Okay. Like take the pressure off yourself. One 15-minute walk in MICT is better than no 45-minute walk.
Right.
One sprint or two sprints or three sprints is better than no sprints because you don't have the full time to get to the, the boot camp at the gym, the 9 a.m. class, right?
Missed it. Yep. There's not another one until Wednesday. Yeah.
Right. Stay consistent with your fasting, start implementing some of these applications and consistency wins, right? We want long-term sustainability. We want the study of lifestyle design. That's something that we put in our podcast opener and our podcast description way back in the day, because it's designing your lifestyle around the end goal, not having your diet plan and your workout strategy become your life. Because then when life gets in the way, it falls off. So I'm going to put this out there, Tommy, because I am the type of person that loves a good deadline. Loves a deadline. Love a deadline.
Yep.
So I actually want to create a little one pager that kind of outlines. So head to the show notes. As we're recording this, we don't have it yet. Okay. So now we have a deadline where, Tommy, you need to make a note so I don't forget, because I will. You can tell who's the organized one in this relationship, in this partnership. It's probably a better word. Is whenever I'm talking to people, like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I have a, blah, 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 and fasting and digital coaching company. And I have a partner. And I'm always like, I have a business partner.
Right.
Named Tommy. Happily married, 3 kids, 3 dogs and a horse. But we're going to create a resource for you here to kind of help distill down what we just said in terms of what does ADF look like? What does MICT look like? What does ADF look like? What does HIIT look like? And give you some real tangible examples, because you can take the transcript that's on our blog page from this and you can go find it. But in true Fasting for Life fashion, I want to give you that resource so we can level up your results, your experience, and ultimately get the results that you've been looking for and deserve. And we truly believe that fasting is that vehicle.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see what that looks like. So,
well, I guess we got some work to do. Final thoughts, Tommy, as we wrap up today?
I guess so. I mean, I think the final thought for me would be, if you don't feel like your fasts have been at the same level to kind of optimize your results like this, like maybe you're feeling like you're still far away from ADF, from alternate day fasting, then take a look at the blueprint to fasting for fat loss on the website. Yes. Grab that and then start there. And then let's just start with adding a few hours to your current high score, your current like comfort zone.
We call that ramping up.
Right? Yeah. Let's just start that ramp up process. And then you could even start with, I mean, if you're not doing any activity right now, let's just say you're starting from sedentary.
Oh, I love this point.
Right? Just start off with, like, lower the bar. Like you said, just take the pressure off yourself. Start off with 5 minutes. I mean, something where you just can't talk yourself out of it, and just start there. That's the checkbox. Okay. And in a few days, go to 10, go to 15, just start with 5-minute increments, and then just work your way up from there. It's the same way you're doing with your fasting, and you will see improvements all along the way. It's worth doing. And even if you got, like we talked about, momentary maintenance or a plateau earlier, even if you got stuck halfway between where you are now and that ADF protocol, or where you are now sedentary and what that 35 to 60 minute moderate intensity exercise look like, even if you got stuck halfway there, you would be head and shoulders above where you are right now. It would absolutely be, it would be worth getting stuck there, right? And you'll probably find that you get yourself to the next level anyway. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So it's absolutely worth starting that transition to those progressive levels today.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Tommy, we did it.
Awesome.
When we started the conversation today, I know I had a roadmap of where I wanted to take everybody. So ultimately, when we look at the efficacy of intermittent fasting plus exercise combinations for weight loss, really cool study, really cool outcomes. You're looking for more support, head to the show notes, grab a resource, grab the blueprint, join an upcoming challenge. We talk about it. We have an entire day dedicated to day 6. We have an entire day dedicated to one of the main teaching points on that day is about exercise. And we dive a little bit more into the physiology and the research. And you get real-time coaching from us 7 days in a row, plus a bonus day on day 9, plus all the resources, plus an incredible community to experience it in. So,
a lot of
Tommy,
fun.
Man, appreciate you. Great conversation today, man. And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
So, you've heard today's episode, and you may be wondering, where do I start? Head on over to thefastingforlife.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive fasting tips and strategies to maximize results and fit fasting into your day-to-day life.
While you're there, download your free Fast Start guide to get started today. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Fasting for Life.